prime characteristics of these times ahead will be the acceleration of time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways of looking at that, let's see, Christmas is before us. What happened to one last year? How did it get to be December already? I thought it was July.
Yeah, exactly. Sheesh, my
So
God.
it's incredibly important that we go with our perceptions and learn to look within. One of the things we're taught along the line is to deny our feelings about things.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite questions to ask people is, how do you feel about this? Look within. And one of the most important considerations is if we start looking within at how we truly feel about things, and I'm not talking about just anger or not, but just a deeper questioning within, there is what I call the ring of truth. It's almost like a bell, something that you hear or see when it resonates with an inner truth, or it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the ultimate guideline, because as many of these systems go away and things become more and more challenging, that's going to be our only reference.
So it's important to have a stable, how should I put it, internal environment, and you need to know yourself during this period. Is that right?
Absolutely. Possibly the most important thing we can do is get rid of all the emotional baggage that we built up from our earlier years and earlier lifetimes.
And that's not an easy thing to deal with right away, especially if you're not, into any kind of, healing or maybe some kind of, spiritual path. There are many people that don't even recognize that fact. And do you think that those people who don't observe that they are themselves have a spirit, so forth, that they will have a more difficult time in this transition period?
Oh, absolutely. They'll be stumbling around in the dark with no clue as to what's going on and no way to reach for any kind of tools to deal with these changes of energies.
One thing I want to ask you a little bit about this, some of the, what we might expect on a more, I guess, physical plane during this transition. One thing that you write about and that I mentioned pretty early in the paragraph that I read is about the weather patterns, and this is interesting because this is something very physical. Many people can actually see it and experience this themselves. So this is an important point, I think. And a lot of people now are, of course, just pinpointing the fact that this is all due to this is our fault, of course, and this is due to global warming and our, letting out all the carbon emissions and all that crap. But what do you think about that, and what kind of is your response to that kind of attitude?
Oh, I think it's a very interesting way these things are coming together. Certainly, if you just look at the surface of the planet, when you take an airplane ride across any country, we have dramatically changed the surface of the planet. You got lights everywhere. There's roads everywhere. It's like ants have taken over everything. So we can't help but have some effect. The question is, how much is that effect? I would suspect that the nuclear testing that we've done is a greater negative effect on Mother Earth than all the other stuff, but none of it can be a truly long-term positive thing in that it is a manifestation of denial or irreverence to the Earth itself. If we look at the Earth as a spiritual creation, it's sort of like the people who get deeply into the vegetarian thing. Oh, I'm not going to eat meat because, well, that's harmful to the animals and it hurts the animals and all that. And think about when you eat a radish the next time. Just because you can't hear it scream, you're biting into a living organism.
Of course, everything is alive. Nothing is dead, right?
Everything is interconnected. But what I'm saying is that these people that are beating the drums the loudest for the global warming things are using that as a tool to further enslave us in their little schemes and games of manipulation and control. I haven't seen any kind of these people getting together, putting their money into a serious program to supplant the use of petroleum fuels, for example.
That seems very interesting, and this is also another factor that kind of dovetails with all of this. A lot of people are saying that the peak oil is running out, and some people are saying that this actually also is kind of bogus to that degree. But the question is, whatever the fact is here, this is a problem either if it's artificially created or if it's real, whatever. I'm kind of looking towards what are the solutions towards this. Can we find some new technology? Is it time maybe to get rid of the old energy politics that we've had now and actually begin to look at some other alternative energies? What do you feel about that?
Well, there are plenty of technologies running around that have been developed over the years. If we had solar panels on every roof, I get a kind of a charge out of people who say, well, solar is too expensive. Well, it's priced very high right now because there's a shortage of refined silicon. There's no shortage of silicon on the planet, but there's a shortage of refined silicon, and these costs are artificially high. But they say, well, they say the same thing about wind power. Well, it costs more. Let's see, you put up a windmill and it lasts forever, and all the time it's operating, you're not putting any energy into it. How can that cost more? There's some serious disconnects in the way we're looking at these things. If we were serious about this, we would have a national program in all kinds of nations dedicated to putting in wind and solar and tidal power. There are just no end of possibilities. We could every stream could have a dam on it. We've got people who are dedicated to erasing dams.
Yeah, exactly. And they're
the real game here is let's play a serious game and let's you and him fight. We keep people divided enough, then we can be sure and not go anywhere.
Exactly. That's absolutely right. And then we have all the other technologies that doesn't seem to get any media attention. There are cars that actually go on air now. Basically, it's basically compressed air. Basically, there's people that are saying that cold fusion is a reality. We have water engines and even steam engines that actually produce excess energy, and it's out there, and people can find out about it if they go on the web. But again, there seems to be obviously, and here is where the conspiracy comes in, there is an interest here that people don't want this energy or this technology to become available,
Well, let's see. We have the petroleum interests and we have the power company interests, both of which are dedicated to centralized control of the entire structure.
Yeah.
I wonder how much influence they actually have on the media.
About everything, I guess. I don't know. They probably own it. It's probably the same guys in the top anyway. Who knows,
Now, I spent some time working for a large petroleum company, and I've always been just a little bit skeptical about some of these claims, but I actually found in their archives a copy of the 100-mile-per-gallon carburetor.
There you go.
They had bought and buried. I saw it with my own eyes. This is not hearsay.
What do you...
I thought was absolutely fascinating.
Exactly. So, So
why are we stuck on the piston engine when there are other engines that are more effective?
Exactly. It's incredible, but it seems to be. I guess this also relates very much to what you write about in your document here that we'll get to here shortly. That there seems to be the old energy, so to speak, the old Piscean kind of force that still is in control, it seems, of the governments and so forth, is trying to kind of prevent everything new from coming in. It's kind of a struggle going on here, right?
Absolutely. People don't like change, and people who are ensconced in organizations don't like change. And they've been known to fight things like that. Of course, exactly. Here we're talking about fighting a solar system, a universal, and a planetary energy. So in the long run, it can't work, but in the short run, it can get messy.
Exactly. Hey, listen, I'm going to read here a few of these, the paragraphs that you have in your document, and feel free to comment, or I'll, drop a question about it or whatever, but we can read this here. We have the Pisces characteristics here. First, we have the dissolver. That's a Piscean energy or property here. I'm going to read here. Most changes take place by gradual shifts in a given structure, dissolving the old into the new. Examples. Governments change their methods and priorities slowly over time. In 200 years, the U.S. has gone from cradle of freedom and independence to a cradle of welfare and dependence. Personal relationships develops gradually over the years. And of the same energy or property here, we have under the Aquarian characteristic, we have the disruptor. Changes take place very abruptly, without warning, dramatically changing patterns very quickly. Examples. Governments will change quickly, especially in response to unexpected events. Personal relationships will move quickly to deeper levels or separation, bringing faster companionships and quicker divorces. And that's pretty interesting in relation to what we just spoke about, by the fact that on some levels the government seems to be very conservative and very scared of change. But, for example, just look at how the U.S. very quickly changed all the many new laws went into effect, and even the entire new Homeland Security Department was set up and new laws were put in, and that happened very quickly, right?
That was a dramatic example of that kind of change being imposed upon the older, slower, historical way things happened. And then you see the people admired in those agencies dragging their feet.
Yeah, exactly.
And the personal relationships thing is in our face. Divorces are up dramatically for many reasons. Part of it is a greater communication, which is another enhancement of the Aquarian Age or change, in that the time of secrets is gone. And we see that more and more. People keep trying to hold on to their little secret things, and stuff keeps oozing out the corners and cracks.
Exactly. Well, that's a good point, and I think you had this in one of your paragraphs that you basically described that the Piscean Age have had this. Actually, I found it here. I can read it here. Secretive under Piscean Age here. Secrets are rampant on all levels, from government to individuals. Example. Secret societies and government activities are commonplace. Keeping secrets is considered important and used as a source of power and intimacy. One partner keeping secrets from the other is commonplace. And then under Aquarian, we have a communicative. Knowledge is king. The focus shifts from secretive to open frankness in all things. Examples. There will be no tolerance for secret or clandestine behavior. Spying and clandestine activities will no longer be considered acceptable behavior. Partnership will be based on forthright communication and follow through. So that's very, very interesting that we can almost see that secrets have always been a part of the old structures, but now it's kind of coming to the surface. Many people would say that this is because there are more people are trying to hide more things now, but to turn that all around, I guess what you're saying here is that this has always been the case, but the fact is that this is now coming to the surface, so we think it's just more, right?
Absolutely. The energies are no longer in favor of, if you will, are no longer supportive of all this hidden stuff. It's time for the sunlight to hit, and it's just being shaken from without, from the very core. And the other thing that's interesting to me about how all these things work is I've put these together in kind of polarities.
Yeah.
Because everything in the universe is polar. They're all intertwined, and that's so we can go through each one and look at it. But when you look at the total picture and say all these, you get a whole topography. It's a whole new world. Yeah,
exactly. Let me see here. I can read another one here. Under Piscean, we have deceptive, smoke and mirrors. Calculated misinformation and errors of omission have developed almost into art forms. Examples: leaders almost universally deceive others and are often rewarded for it.